An unprecedented White House leak has just revealed how little President Trump actually works. Well, as if this is that much of a surprise, which it's not. Now, according to Axios, Trump spends a lot of time that he's supposed to be working doing something called executive time. Now, I've talked about executive time before. Well, how much? Apparently, he spends over half of his time. Over half. Again, he's supposed to be working, but yet he is actually spending time doing executive time. What's executive time? So that's basically unstructured time where President Trump gets to do whatever he wants. And that, I love how that's like a bit of an Orwellian name for him just basically kicking his feet back and watching Fox and Friends. But that's what it is. Now, Trump, according to these leaked documents, often wakes before 6 a.m. However, he's never in the Oval Office during those hours, according to 6 different sources with direct knowledge. Instead, he spends his morning in the residence, watching TV, reading the papers, which I highly doubt, and responding to what he sees and reads by phoning aides, members of Congress, friends, administration officials, and informal advisors. So let me sum that up. So basically, he watches Fox and Friends, live tweets about what they're talking about, while eating cheeseburgers, drinking Diet Coke, and doing nothing till about 11. That's Donald Trump's day. Get up at 6, BS around for hours, and then eventually goes to a meeting. Now, the first meeting of the day, of course, is usually around 11, 11:30, is often an intelligence briefing or a 30-minute meeting with his chief of staff. Now, look, I don't think those intelligence briefings go for that long, especially since he counteracts everything he gets from the intelligence briefing, doesn't pay attention, and then he recently just said, I don't need intelligence. Well, you don't really have any to begin with, to be fair. But anyway, how much time is he spending in executive time? Since November 7th, the day after the midterm elections, Trump has spent a total of 297 hours in executive time. That's according to the 51 private schedules obtained by Axios. Now, this is not hearsay. This is, we've got the schedules. We know exactly what he's doing with his time. And apparently, it ain't much. Now, for those same schedules, Trump has had about 77 hours scheduled for meetings that include policy planning, legislative strategy, and video recordings. Let me guess that the policy planning and legislative strategy isn't actually that. It's a bunch of people that are probably trying to talk to Trump with him not listening, with him probably doodling on his papers. Are we done yet? I want to go watch Fox and Friends. Now, some days they say executive time totally predominates. For instance, he had an hour of scheduled meetings on January 18th with Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, and a total of 7 hours of executive time. 7 hours. Now, look, it would be different if President Trump actually used that time to study policy issues and maybe read up on different bills and initiatives. It's not like he doesn't have time to become informed. It's just that he's not interested in becoming informed. He's not interested in following up on policy. Instead, he's watching Steve Doocy and Brian Kilmeade. That's what's going on. He watches Fox News basically constantly. And guess what? He also calls Fox hosts and they inform him about policy. You're getting policy from watching Fox News. Dear God, man. Ugh. Now, another example, the day after the midterms, Trump's schedule had 30 minutes for a chief of staff meeting and more than 7 hours of executive time. Now, the White House says, and you'll love their defense, right? See, executive time is basically time that's unstructured where Donald Trump can be creative and come up with new policies because he works differently than everybody else. Now you tell me, based on his tweets, based on his apparent lack of knowledge when he talks for even his own policies or his administration's own policies. For example, the failed GOP healthcare plan that he literally knew almost nothing about. You tell me that he's using his executive time to be more creative. Come on, you don't believe that. Even MAGA guys, you don't believe that. You don't believe that. I know you'll come out and you'll froth and you'll type furiously saying, "No, Jeff, you're wrong. He's the hardest working president ever." But you don't believe that. You don't believe that. You look at the guy who is lazy while you're busting your butt, while you're working, right? This guy is literally sitting on his butt, eating cheeseburgers or hamburgers and watching Fox and Friends. Don't you wish you could be doing that instead? But no, you got this guy who's a couch potato as the president of the United States. I guess suppose as progressives we should be lucky because, look, maybe it's better off that he's lazy and doesn't actually get anything done. Because imagine if he were both as evil as he is, but competent. I guess thankfully he's not. But no, speaking of being lazy as hell, let me actually give you some examples of that. Right? So according to different aides, he would skim newspaper articles, news summaries, and bullet points. So that's because he won't read anything longer. So, and of course, before, what we learned from, aides and leaks from the White House is that he wouldn't read things unless they had his name peppered in. He just couldn't pay attention. He doesn't have an attention span unless it's about himself. Now, there's more. According to a former senior White House official, he said, quote, "Trump does review briefing materials, at least if you make it a point to have him do so. But only if you talk and guide him through as he's reading." So that sounds like something a kindergarten teacher has to do with a student. Let me just guide you through this. Here's a big word. Here's how to pronounce a big word that you don't understand. He's a child. And that's not to be, insulting towards children, but he literally has a child mentality. There's something wrong with this dude where you have to literally guide him through a policy briefing or he won't do it because he doesn't understand it, because he doesn't have any intellectual curiosity. And he's also not a very stable genius. There's more. Trump also receives national security materials and news summaries every evening, but the package is more visual than his predecessors, with screenshots from the Drudge Report homepage, pictures of his own tweets, and snapshots of cable news chyrons from throughout the day, according to people who have seen these nightly briefing packages. So notice that it's all pictures of what cable news and Drudge Report is saying about him. All visual, nothing to do with actual policy. And look, why is he lazy? Well, for one, he's not very bright. But two, he's actually used to being lazy. See, the thing is, when he was a CEO, he would just be used to ordering people around, and they would all scurry to do what he wanted them to do. And not even actually so. Sometimes he'll just tell people to do things that is so off the wall and wrong and sometimes illegal that they say, well, we're not going to do it. They say later on, well, we're not going to do it. And they don't, but they tell him, yes, we are going to do it. Yes, sir. So we'll do it. We'll do it. And then when you don't do it right, or when you actually do what he tells you to do, and it blows up in his face, well, then he blames you. That's what it's like working for Donald Trump. Now, it's different here in politics because, well, again, it's politics. Everybody has an agenda. They don't work for you. There are people that actually work against you, in fact. And look, the fact that the schedule was leaked to the press in the first place shows you that there is somebody there who is not a fan of Donald Trump working in the White House. All that backstabbing and basically political gamesmanship, it's not something that he's used to. Again, he's used to people jumping and following his orders at the drop of a hat. He does not have that. Now, as to who is leaking this, you guys know I think it's Kellyanne Conway. I don't have any information. I don't have any proof. But come on, man. I'm almost now completely convinced that it is Kellyanne Conway that is leaking to the press. I think the only other person besides the White House leaker that leaks to the press this much is Trump himself. He's like the second biggest leaker in the White House. Now, of course, they say, oh, well, he's being unconventional. No, it's not just as if he has a new leadership style that he's being unconventional. No, he's literally dumb, and he is too dumb to be in a position of that much power. They got to invoke the 25th, man. You got to get rid of this guy. Because, look, the adults in the room keep leaving. John Kelly, and so many of the other staffers who have actually tried to keep him in check are gone. How many more are going to go? How many more before all the adults are gone and we are basically stuck with him and his worst impulses? Gotta get him out of there. 25th Amendment now. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.